Hey friend, it's Stacy saying hello with a Summer of Sabbath replay. You're listening to episode 16, Bread and Beginnings, a Sabbath starting place. Hi, I'm Stacy Holmes, and this is Glordinary, a few moments where we celebrate God's glory and champion the ordinary. I'm glad you're here. Well, friend, here we are, together again, and kicking off our Summer of Sabbath series. You know what's funny? When you say the word Sabbath, people kind of stare at you. At best, they might think you're Amish. At worst, they find you holier than thou or privileged. Well, that's fun. Is there a third option? Yes. So before we get into all the particulars, I thought I'd tell you the backstory of how I found Sabbath, or rather, Sabbath found me. It all started with bread. I'm a bread lover, and not just by a little. As a child, my parents will tell you if they couldn't find the bread in our kitchen, they knew the only place it would be, my bedroom. I love bread so much, I've been known to actually sleep with the loaf right in my bed, just in case I needed a quick little nibble before drifting off. Yet somewhere along the way, I had to be a grown-up and realize that A, that was kind of weird, and B, my age and metabolism decided to go their separate ways, and C, they started that whole carbs propaganda. Alas, I stuffed my love of all things bread as far down as possible and tried to only eat it on the most special of occasions. Man, growing up's no fun. But then a little thing happened in 2020 called COVID-19. Heard of it? Yeah, that was interesting. Suddenly my state of Michigan, and maybe yours too, just stopped. Everything. And during those first couple weeks, I channeled my inner little house on the prairie and began baking homemade bread. Every week, I'd bake bread and we'd break bread together as a little family, sharing communion with one another. It was a sweet time and a special rhythm that left me hungry for more. Yes, for more bread and more of whatever that taste was. I couldn't quite name it yet, but I knew it left me deeply satisfied and well within my soul. I remember thinking to myself, I love that I have, quote, pandemic permission to be home, to slow down, and eat all the homemade bread. I knew deep down a part of me would actually be kind of sad when the pandemic was over, and I would have to go back to the pace, the demands, and the breadless lifestyle that I had come to know. Because somehow what I experienced during my pandemic permission seemed like actual living, what I was actually meant to experience and know, a slowing down, an intentional rest, thoughtful considerations of my yeses and my nos, a delight-filled life, and, well, homemade bread too. And that's when a dear friend suggested, Stace, what if this is more than pandemic permission? What if you're being invited to experience this every week? And that's how I stumbled upon Sabbath, life-giving, joy-producing, rested fullness. Now, I've known about the Sabbath day. Of course, I grew up in church, and on the seventh day, God rested. I knew the drill. I grew up going to church twice a day, every single Sunday. My husband, John, he's a pastor's kid, and well, he married me, the girl who had a Bible degree and a pastoral license in tow. So, yeah, we kind of get the whole Sabbath thing. But, yeah, we kind of didn't. Like, not at all. Because I didn't know Sabbath in this way, this soul-sustaining, enriching, freedom-inviting way. I knew it in a come on, tiring and overloaded kind of way, get everybody out the door kind of way, until about 4 years ago. During that time, I began to read and study as much as I could about Sabbath, or Sabbathing, which is probably a more appropriate word. You see, the Hebrew for Sabbath comes from the verb Shabbat, which means to stop, to cease. I quickly learned I really didn't have a good starting place, a practice around Sabbath, or Sabbathing for that matter. And if I had to guess, I bet you might not either. Mark 2:27 says this, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Sabbath was created and designed by God as a gift for us, not as a demand from us. For, not from. We are meant to receive, accept, and celebrate this day of delight every single week. I thought it'd be helpful to have a Sabbath framework for our summer chats, like a starting point to support our growing awareness and acceptance of Sabbath or Sabbathing. Pastor John Mark Comer describes a 4-part theology of Sabbath in his book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. He lists off these 4 parts as stopping, resting, delighting, and worshiping. Each week during our Summer of Sabbath, we'll chat about practical ways to stop, to rest, to delight, and to worship. So until then, let's stop. Let's not only stop working, but let's press pause on worrying and stressing. Let's notice the world around us because we've stopped. Let's rest. We'll rest our minds with quiet, nature, even napping, to name a few. We'll slow down our thoughts, our lives, and our souls. Together, let's dial down the noise and information overload. We'll tune out the headlines and, coincidentally, the headaches too. Let's delight. Let's celebrate this life by filling our hearts and home with joy, feeding it with beauty, laughter, fun, and hope. Let's stack joy upon joy, and in my house, that is forever going to involve chocolate chip cookies and homemade bread. Let's worship. We'll take notice and truly see God and His hand at work, thanking Him for His gifts, His provision. Let's release the grasp on our schedule for His faithfulness and care, trusting that all will be well and all manner of things will be well. Because the Sabbath day is a day of delight. It's a gift for us, not a demand from us. And when we chat next week, we'll look at practical ways for how to start by stopping. The Sabbath was made for you, not you for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made to stop, rest, delight, and worship. And because Sabbath looks a little different for everyone and will undoubtedly shift and morph with various seasons of life, I love how God simply invites us to remember the Sabbath. Remember, because He's remembering me and He's remembering you. Dr. Matthew Sleeth writes this in his book titled 24/6. He says, "The Sabbath is irrefutable proof that God is real." Because let's face it, friend, no one could have, nor would have, created a Sabbath, a stop, a rest, a delight, and a worship. No one except Christ, or more affectionately called, the Lord of the Sabbath. Because it's not about what you can't do, it's about what you don't have to do. And that sounds pretty perfect. So here's to our Summer of Sabbath. Let's keep company together as we keep company with Him. Remember, you're not alone in this. I'm praying for you, friend. Have a glordinary day.